When it comes to fictional stories, villains have always been fascinating to me. When I was younger, it was always just how cool Darth Vader was, or how badass that one edgy anime villain was. Over the years, my reasons for being interested in villains may have changed, but the fascination for them is still there. Villains, for me, embody the inescapable fallibility of humans. And when those villains that embody such a flawed ideology or mindset find their way towards redemption or are thwarted by the heroes and are forced to see all their mistakes through the hero's triumph, that often creates some of the most memorable moments in fiction for me. Therefore, it is perhaps not surprising that Arcane Silco, its primary villain, is one of its characters that left the biggest impression on me. However, there are a few things that are weird about Silco. He isn't really thwarted by the heroes. Neither Vi nor Caitlyn or any of Arcane's other protagonists really defeat him in a grand display of moral punishment for his crimes. And on the other hand, he also certainly isn't redeemed. So, what's up with Silco? Well, let's take a closer look. When we first see Silco in Arcane, he is a rather stereotypical, almost cartoony villain. I mean, just listen to him.
Power. Real power doesn't come to those who are born strongest, or fastest, or smartest. No, it comes to those who will do anything to achieve it.
But that's just the kind of show Arcane is at the beginning. We follow Vi and her gang on their youthful, fun adventures, and during those adventures they meet a big bad like Silco, who spews some moderately scary lines before being toppled by the heroes, only to then return in the next episode with a new malicious plan for the heroes to thwart. Well, that's how the show presents itself at the start anyway. We all know that things turn out very differently. Arcane consciously plays with our expectation for Silco and the story in general by drawing on well-established tropes of the genre, only to then subvert them. When Vander is captured by Silco, Vi's gang, of course, comes to save him. We have a very classical 5-man band setup to lead up to a grandiose escape by the group. Vi, the leader, holds off Silco's gang so the others can set up their escape. Clagger, the big guy, is looking for a way out, while Milo the Lancer lockpicks. Powder, the smart one, finally gets one of her inventions to work to cover the escape for her friends. And all that happens to free Vander, the Heart, who everyone is emotionally attached to. Using their different skills, they manage to escape and Vander serves them all a nice meal as a reward for their bravery. While in the last scene of the episode we see Silco pledge revenge and say, "I'll get you next time." Or that's how it should have gone, at least. But Arcane pulls the rug from under our feet, as it shows us that the cruel life in Zaun doesn't follow the happy tropes of adventure shows. Powder's monkey bomb works, but with far too much power, killing 2 of her friends, her foster parent, and causing Vi to lash out at her in anger for what she has done, only to then leave her behind on her own. This is a major turning point for Vi and Jinx's characters, and for the story as a whole, both in-universe and outside of it. We have to remember that while this happens in Zaun, Victor and Jace invent the revolutionary Hextech in Piltover. And with this, the mood of the show changes drastically forever. No more fun, careless, youthful adventure, but the harsh truth of reality. And at this major turning point of the show, a new side of Silco is shown to us as viewers. From a villain in a generic adventure show, we would expect that Silco would capture Powder immediately, perhaps threaten to kill her when he finds her alone on the streets. But, of course, he doesn't. It's the first act of kindness we see from Silco, the first time he has ever shown that he cares for anyone other than himself, and it's for crying helpless Powder. That's a weird way to frame a villain, right? Why does he do that? What is his motivation for taking her in as his daughter? Well, contrary to what you might think if you've seen some of my other videos, I'm not going to go on a tangent now explaining to you how Silco suddenly grew a heart and became super sympathetic. No, I truly don't think Silco took Powder in for any selfless reason at all. I actually think the opposite is the case. The reason why he does that is that he sees himself in little Powder. Powder has been betrayed and left to die by her sister, just like Silco has once, at least in his eyes, been betrayed and left to die by Vander, whom he frequently calls his brother. And Silco has a unique attitude towards this betrayal, because he actually seems to believe that he has gained something from it.
Betrayal. That pain that feels like it'll eat you from the inside out can either break you or forge you into something greater.
And Silco had to learn this the hard way. He had to come close to being broken by the pain of betrayal many times to get that insight. And he wanted to help little Powder to find that insight, to be forged into something greater without all the horror he went through. Silco helps Powder, sure, but what he actually wants is to help his past self, to prevent the pain he had to go through. The way I interpret it, Silco's help for Powder is, at least at first, not at all an act of altruism, but by helping Powder, he's primarily helping himself. This is also expressed in the way he treats Jinx during the second act. When Jinx struggles with her memories of Vi, Silco tells her that he has to leave her behind, just like he left behind Vander. He even brings her to the place he almost drowned in, which is also the place he had his epiphany and gained his new worldview in, and recreates the events of that day for Jinx in order for her to also get the same epiphany. Obviously, the theme of rebirth that is incredibly important for this scene is also reinforced with quite a bit of Christian imagery, as Jinx is literally baptized in water. Silco tries his best to forge Jinx into a copy of himself, and that's exactly why the revelation that Marcus has lied to him and Vi is actually still alive hits him so hard. Vi is the part of the equation that makes Jinx fundamentally different from Silco. After all, Vander is gone, Vi is not. And furthermore, there's even the risk that Vi might actually be here to make up with Jinx, a thing that might destroy all of the work Silco has put into reshaping Jinx into his image. However, ironically, while Jinx is spiraling out of control and her relationship to Silco takes many ups and downs, Silco's plans for the future of the Undercity actually slowly take shape. Silco comes so close to succeeding that the Council of Piltover is ready to acknowledge the Undercity as an independent nation of Zaun. But again, things don't quite take the turn we would expect. Why is that? Well, we have to understand that something in Silco changes drastically over the course of the show. At the very beginning of the show, Silco wouldn't have hesitated to take Jace's offer for Zaun's independence. This makes sense after all. This has been Silco's main goal from the very beginning, and he has also proved that he is willing to risk anything to achieve that goal. To understand why that wasn't the case at the end of the story anymore, we have to understand the relationship between Silco and his so-called brother, Vander. At the beginning, Silco's readiness to risk everything contrasts the ideology of Vander drastically, who tries everything to keep himself, his children, and the other people of the lanes safe. This attitude infuriates Silco, who is unable to understand why Vander isn't willing to fight for the cause both of them once believed in. Silco and Vander are presented as polar opposites, with the children Vi and Powder placed between them ideologically. However, they also share a lot of parallels. After Vander's death, Silco becomes the de facto leader of the lanes, taking Vander's place for himself. He secures this position in a very similar manner to Vander, by making a deal with the sheriff of the Wardens. That sheriff may be Marcus now, not Grayson, and the deal may be rather different from the way that Vander made, but the parallel still stands. Both Vander's and Silco's authority is frequently questioned because of their special treatment toward their daughters, Vi for Vander and Jinx for Silco. Ironically, one of the first people to show some resentment for Silco's relationship to Jinx is Savika, the very same person who questioned Vander's attachment to Vi and betrayed him for it. That same role is later filled by Finn, who also attempts to betray Silco, but since Savika appears to have more loyalty to Silco than to Vander, she swiftly deals with that threat. These parallels peak in the deal that Jace offers Silco, to get what he wants if he gives up his daughter. Just like Grayson offered Vander to leave him alone if he gave up Vi. We see Silco contemplate this decision in a not so subtle scene that emphasizes his parallels to Vander, where he sits down at a statue in the lanes and realizes that he is in the exact same position Vander was in, and he's about to make the exact same decision he blamed Vander for. While I believe Silco took in Powder for purely selfish reasons, I think at this point it is undeniable that he has developed caring feelings for Jinx. Mind you, this doesn't redeem him or anything. After all, caring about a single person doesn't exactly make you a good person, but we have to remember how much development this is for him. Silco at the start of the show was characterized as someone who would risk anything to gain the power he wants to achieve, and for him to now have something he is not willing to give up for his goals shows the fatal flaw in his ideology. In the end, Silco dies at the hand of Jinx, with no regrets because he still knows he made the right decision to never give up on her. It's almost like, in the end, Silco is willing to die for the cause, but not willing to fight for it. Hey, thank you very much for watching this Silco character analysis. Sorry there haven't been any other Arcane videos any sooner, but I've kind of been swamped with other work. In addition, I kind of had to let the second and third act sit for a while to come up with something interesting to say about them. I really did enjoy taking a closer look at Silco though. He's much more interesting than he seems at first glance. I hope this video met your expectations and you enjoyed watching it, and if you did, I would of course appreciate it if you could leave a like, comment or subscription to tell YouTube I have worth as a person. Also feel free to tell me what you would like to see on this channel or what other feedback you have. I always appreciate it greatly. That's it from me though. Stay healthy, stay safe, and most importantly, stay delusional.